episode 5, Reintroduce Yourself. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss this one.
Hey, welcome to Redefining You, where we inspire and encourage purposeful people who are intentional about evolving and redefining themselves. So today, it's me, Noelle Lawhorn, and
Brittany, right? Be the CEO.
We are your hosts for Redefining You, and we are in episode 5. Yes.
Man, it's moving.
I know.
Already.
It's so exciting. So episode 5 is really these next 2 episodes are in your self-healing journey or your healing journey. I feel like these topics are the ones that really started changing the course.
Right.
You go from out of that slump of stress and anxiety, depression, or whatever you're feeling, aimlessness, where you're feeling lost, and you step into, let's do some actionable things to get myself up. I got to get out of bed. I got to get moving. I got to get back focused on work. And I feel like that's what these next 2 episodes really helped us do, because these are the 2 steps that the work had to match what we were going through. So so episode 5, sorry guys, we're really just trying to piece it together, but it's so real, it's so raw. And one, let me just thank y'all for constantly supporting us. Episode 1 and 2 launch was amazing. 3 and 4 are exciting episodes. They're definitely great topics. And now 5 and 6 are here, and we really want to dive into just this journey for healing and really do some work on it. So
let's get to work.
Reintroducing ourselves. So first thing up is we're going to talk about identity, right? So identity in the form of self-worth, self-esteem, your individual way of qualifying and quantifying yourself in the world, in the space that you're in and that you operate in, is identity. So another thing that we wanted to hit on is, let's talk about 7 symptoms of an identity crisis, because I think that's what leads you to the self-worth, to the core values, which are going to be our topics that we're talking about today, right? So there are 7 common symptoms. So if you are feeling any of these symptoms, then you may be experiencing an identity crisis. And that should be a catalyst to get you started in the healing journey. Number 1 is low self-esteem. 2 is questioning your value or your worth. 3 is feeling lost or aimless. 4, not feeling a sense of purpose or understanding your own values. 5, emotionally scattered or difficulty regulating your emotions. So some people, culture term now is you don't have any emotional intelligence about yourself in the moment, right? 6 is increased feelings of insecurity, and 7 is increased feelings of anxiety or depression. So if you feel like you are experiencing any of those symptoms, you may be in an identity crisis, and identity is key.
Right. I think more people are in an identity crisis than what we really acknowledge or say in this world. There's a lot of people going through this. It's I know sometimes we can feel like it's just us, or why do I feel so lost? Why do I feel like I don't know who I am? And why do I feel like I was all of these things, and then now all of a sudden I'm here? You are not the only person. At some point, most of us have gone through this. We didn't know what to call it. We couldn't put a name on it. And we always say, once you put a name on it, then it is what it is.
Yeah.
And then you can fix it. You have to call it what it is first. And once you do that, then now we can move somewhere. So now that you've actually went through that list, we put a name on it, and now it's time to get to work.
Absolutely. So it's really just labeling, because I know for me in a personal space like that, we talked about this in previous episodes, where the moment where I realized I was lost, I had no motivation, lack of motivation. I was anxious. I was depressed. I didn't want to get out of bed. And it was the moment in therapy where the question was asked, who are you? And that was the moment where I was like, oh crap, I can't even tell you, I can't tell you my true identity.
Right.
I can only tell you all these roles that I play in life. I can tell you, I can greatly describe real estate to you, being a super mom of this beautiful little girl, being the backbone and strength to a big, large, blended family that I love, like being, soon a divorcee. Like, I could tell you all those roles, but I cannot tell you a thing about who I was and what I valued about myself and the how I found a sense of purpose and worth for me in this world. Not at all.
Let me say this. A lot of times we pick up so many pieces from other people and things, or what people see you as.
Yeah.
So people saw you as, oh my gosh, she's this realtor, she's this great mom, and she's traveling, and she's doing all these beautiful things. Social media can get you.
Yeah.
And not that you weren't doing those things. You were doing all of them.
Flawlessly.
And then when you get home and you sit down and you're asked that question, who are you? You're like,
let's get real. It ain't even getting home. It's pulling up in the driveway. It's getting to a quiet space where those people are no longer around you, affirming you.
Here you go.
And it gets quiet.
There you go.
And you got to sit with yourself and realize, oh, I don't like being with her. Her is damaged. Her is lonely. Her is depressed. Like, that was the moment. Like, you know how many days I spent crying in the driveway of my house? Just sitting stuck.
I can believe it, because I was there. I was there too, And
then I just think about it, like, even from past relationships where you are in a relationship or a marriage and, like, you're dealing with so much stress and things that are onsetting an identity crisis that you're going through. You've lost yourself pleasing everybody else or living up to this flawless lifestyle that you're trying to withstand and uphold on social media and what people think of you, right? And she was me, right? So I'm living this up like to its highest regard, to the point where I lost me. I lost who I really was trying to do that. And I don't know if maybe it's FOMO, like fear of missing out, or the comparison kind of piece. I don't really know if it was they had impact or any type of association with it. I think for me, mostly it was people pleasing. It was definitely trying to get everybody to smile and love themselves and love me. And that was another thing that was really big in my self-healing journey, is like, there were so many points that, like, I can affirm. I know my gift is to make everybody feel like they could accomplish the world. Like, you spend 10 minutes with me and I'm literally going to have you, like, out here trying to walk on your hands. Like, it's strange, right? Like, I just believe in so much of other people. But when the tables were turned and the question was asked, why don't you give yourself that same amount of belief? It's because I never felt like I was worthy to do that. I never saw myself as that worth, in that level of self-worth, to affirm myself that way. And that's scary. That, like, really, that's like making me emotional even thinking about it. Like, that was hard to digest and understand about yourself, because I was like, what do you mean I don't give myself that level of love and appreciation? And I just didn't. I couldn't.
Can you imagine somebody being married to you? Like, let's not even talk about you being married to them, but somebody being married to you. And they're trying to help you in their best way, or they are, when you got married, your identity was different then.
Yeah.
So now, and when you're in marriage or when you're in relationships, things change. But can you imagine being in that space and them wanting to help you, but you don't even know at that point who you are?
Oh my God.
We were both there.
Oh my
We were
God.
both there. So
Yeah. If you need stats, like, it is over 50% of marriages fail, right? Like, if we really want to use stats, and you can look it up, and according to Google is what I'm going to tell you the stat is, right? And why is that? Majority of the people who are suffering through identity crisis, they don't know who they are to even show up as their best version of themselves in order to be a whole individual, to make this partnership work for both parties. And so, yeah, you're right. Like, how could I, if I didn't understand who I was and I didn't see myself worthy, how can I be able to even communicate and express to my significant other or my spouse to be able to say, oh yeah, this is what I need from you. This is how I feel. This is how I overcome the trigger from the past kind of thing. None of that. Like when I say none of it was happening, and that's why I was in the driveway crying. Because I was like, I don't want to go back in this house. Because they're gonna be like, why your makeup running? I don't know. It's raining. Yeah. Like, who knows? Like, it was just lost. I was lost. I was lost, and it was like I was an empty vessel. There was you saw the core outside piece of me, and this cutie, this hottie, right? But then on the inside, there was nothing there. Or was it really there? But we just couldn't identify it. We couldn't label it.
I think sometimes we get caught up in what we're doing and the hustle and bustle of life that we don't take enough time to sit with ourselves to really figure that out. Most people aren't asked that question, who are you? Right. Because people see who you are through social media, at work, hanging with friends. And that's not always who you are. You know, if they don't really know what you value, then that's not always who you're showing up as. You're a lot of times showing up as somebody else.
You're not authentic. Yeah. That's a big thing about social media. It has a very big, large impact on society and culture now, because, you know, it's not very often that someone is authentic and, like, you know, presenting themselves as their true self online kind of deal. And I mean, I can attest for it previously as well, because it was like I needed to show up like that because the people loved that version of me. They helped me be able to go to bed at night and look in the mirror at myself, regardless of what I felt on the inside of myself, right? But it wasn't authentically me. Like, you know what I'm saying? I couldn't operate at that high level, and the burnout happened.
Ooh, the burnout.
Yeah.
But you got a brand and you have all these things that you got to keep up with, right? You got marketing and all these different things. I know. Like
target audience. Like, right. This is what they need. Right. Like,
we've been there. We've literally been there. Like, I know. It takes a second to sit back and really look at it. But let's get into this.
Yeah. So, understanding who you are and who you show up to be in the authentic version of yourself comes in that level of identity, right? Now, I can't waste a moment to be able to not give glory to the divine and be able to speak about there is another level of identity as well. We operate as Christian women and women of God, and so understanding who you were created to be and who you belong to was the next level of identity. And that one about took me out.
Yeah, that was a whole nother level.
Yeah.
Because
that's where the soul had to get in alignment with the spirit. And boy, it was a war zone. Like, serious war zone, because you really had to dig out. Like, it was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is my identity, these are my values and who I've now shown up to be, right? But hold on, she just questioned me and I really want to cuss her out. But see, I ain't even gonna holler today. You ain't gonna have me hollering in here? You're not gonna have me hollering in here. I'm gonna sit at the feet of this throne and let him fight my battle, because that is like, it was so much stuff that happened, but it was like, once I understood who, like you always say it, once you understand whose you are and who you are, that unlocks a whole nother level of power and authority and peace,
right?
Joy, freedom. Yeah. God, that's my word right now.
That
freedom.
Is, right.
Like, and the freedom to experience pure peace and pure joy and true love. And divine love, agape love, right? That was unlocked when I had to when I began to say, I identify myself with Christ. Right. I identify myself with God, and I'm going to walk this journey out, and I'm going to be committed to this journey. This is where the floodgates open, because then it was like, okay, now let's discuss who you are. Now let's read through my word and go through life experience based on my biblical principles, where you're able to actually see the commonality between these characters and become them, so that you be able to identify yourself and recognize these are the characteristics of God Almighty, and these are the characteristics of Jesus Christ that you should be mirroring. And that level of identity was like, whoo, ain't got no edges.
It changed me. I remember calling you. I think I just dropped Lauren off to school, and I think it's Maverick City. A Man of Your Word. That's one of my favorite songs that came on. And at the end, when they're saying, I am who I am because of who he says I am, right? And that always has stuck with me. But like I said to you, once I figured out whose I was, it changed everything, because it unlocked the power in me to walk with this authority in me now. Like, y'all know who my daddy is? I can walk right on in here. I have the power to speak things to happen. I have the power to move mountains. I have the power to change things, because my belief, my faith, it absolutely changed everything in me. Yeah. And I walk different. I talk different. My environment looks different.
Yeah.
Everything. Peace, like everything.
Yeah.
Everything changes. So that's what comes along with just knowing your identity.
Absolutely. So, you get in spaces like this. Who would have ever thought we would be encouraging other people and talking about our personal journey and really going through this, right? And like really doing this podcast, right? And yeah, y'all share the podcast, because like literally this has been years of a journey, and us literally just talking this out in conversation. It's dope conversation, but it's real and it's raw and it's authentic and it's transformative. Like it's going to transform and help people evolve in some way or fashion.
It's already started to.
It's already started.
It's already started, because these are real topics. Yes. And this is literally what we went through in life. Like, we're at a different stage of life, but we walk through all of these different steps. So we know, thank God, like he gave us each other to walk through it with each other. But most people don't have somebody. And most people really need community. So we're here. We're your community.
Yeah. Don't isolate yourselves. If you're going through an identity crisis, or you're, battling and life is lifing right now for you, like don't feel like you have to be alone and walk through this. Again, you can drop a comment, you can DM us, you can find us on social media, on all social media platforms, and let us come into community with you. Like, let us expand our community, because there's so many. This is the only reason why we're sitting in these chairs right now, is because we are trying to expand the community and help more people evolve and redefine themselves and heal properly. And one of the big things, the identity, like understanding your identity. So understanding your identity on the spiritual level, where your spiritual and your soul come into alignment, y'all, that's the whole total reward. Like that opens every manifestation, as Brittany said, where you can speak, you can walk in rooms, like your gift makes room for you. Like you walk into rooms that you should never even think you're qualified or called to be in, but you step into those rooms and it's like they already know your name. Like I have stepped off an airplane and been called out by name, Right. And so this is how it happens, because it's you placed yourself in the right hands, right? And so that's the reward. Let's double back, because there's some work you got to do, right? That's the faith part that comes with identity. Let's talk about the work part. Whoo, because the work part. When you get asked the question, who are you? And they tell you cannot respond back with roles, but you have to respond back with attributes and beliefs, right? That identify who you are to your core. So those are called core values. Core values are the fundamental beliefs that you have about your life. They guide your behaviors, decisions, and your actions. They bring out a sense of purpose and self-worth, which we identify as your identity, right? But the core values are key. You have to be able to identify them. You have to do the work to figure out what's important to you and how you can come in alignment with those values and be able to walk out in life and have more fulfillment, clarity, and self-awareness, right? But the thing is, like, when you are dealing with an identity crisis and you are lost and you are depressed and you are anxious and what are some other, you're questioning your value and you feel worthless, you don't have self-worth, you don't love yourself, you're insecure. When you are dealing with all of that, your behaviors are dictated by that.
Absolutely.
Ooh, Lord.
Absolutely. And they're behaviors that you don't even know that you have. Like
tap in, y'all.
Tap that way. Their behavior, you don't even know that, you're not even aware of what you're really doing and what you're really saying. Some things, yes. It's like you're in and out of presence. You're here, then you're not. Then you're
right.
I remember.
Right. And this is prior to like learning about, I was suffering with rejection issues, abandonment issues. Couldn't name it. Just out here literally like burning bridges.
Wilding on people.
Going nuts.
Going off.
Completely not myself at all. Yeah. Like the most positive, optimistic, like edifying person to build up the whole world was over here tearing down every house, every bridge. It didn't even matter. And then like I know if y'all go back to listen to episode 1 and 2 where I talk about that moment where it was like I just can't keep operating like this because I don't know even where I'm coming or going. Blacked out. Lord, the substance abuse. Like,
I'm just trying to keep it together. Yeah, because I'm really reflecting of
the behaviors.
I was a hot mess.
It's an understatement.
I'm trying to get it together. I'm not trying to cry, but I'm really reflecting like the Brittany now. I'm like, child, you were a hot mess.
Complete. We were complete.
A hot mess, and
yeah.
The things I know I've said to people, you end up hurting people in those moments that you don't really mean to.
Yeah.
You say things that you don't really mean to. You're not even aware.
You're not self-aware of you don't have any emotional intelligence at all. Like we can't even talk about emotional intelligence in that piece.
You don't even know what that is at the time.
No, you just have disruptive behaviors that are coming out of a place of I don't know who I am. I have no boundaries at this point. You just float. You're literally just going through life. And you're right. Like, I don't even know the years. It was so many years. I feel like I owe like so many people an apology. If you experienced a different version of who is sitting in this chair today, this Noelle, this Brittany, we apologize sincerely.
Sorry.
It's me. It's not you.
It's not you. It's totally me.
It was me.
Oh, man.
And I mean that. Like, I'm going to start another podcast and call it that. It's me. It's not you. Like, it was totally me. And it just give grace because I was not myself. And it was clear. My behaviors were completely awry because I did not know who I was. And I had no values or morals that I was operating out of in a space. I was just surviving. It was straight up survival mode.
It's survival. It's definitely
straight up survival mode. So that's why if I feel triggered to going and feeling like I am approaching the burnout or survival mode, I have to draw back. I have to reset through rest and restoration so that I cannot go back into that space because I know that's the point when my core values are being challenged and I am not setting any boundaries and my behaviors are about to start going down the wrong path, spiraling, right? So let's talk about that, right? So we know, like we said, if you get in alignment with these core values and you figure out what's important to you, then it opens a level of self-awareness, fulfillment, and purpose, right? So you're learning what your purpose is in life because of your core. Now, I will say, and regardless of what culture says to you, I truly believe that your identity comes before your purpose. You have to know who you are and whose you are in order for you to then have a purpose. And I love that everybody wants to talk about purpose, right? But then say, I'm not religious and I'm not spiritual. but it's all through the Bible. Like, that is a spiritual term, basically. It is a concept that comes from spirituality of purpose. It's a greater sense of a belonging on earth, right? Or in whatever space that you're taking up. And so I do think it's very important that we talk about ways and talk about examples of core values in order to help people be able to start moving towards this self-fulfillment and this self-awareness so that they can start identifying themselves and being able to walk into purpose. So do you have some great examples of core values?
Yes, I do. So you guys, I normally don't have a notebook. She's a notebook queen. But I actually brought my journal whenever I was transforming or going through all of this, so you guys get it first. You don't see it, but I actually have all the things, how I just started getting into identity. So before even getting to values, I had to figure out who I was at that stage of my life. I literally had to sit down and say, who am I right now? And not the roles like we always talk about, but I literally had to say, okay, what do I bring to the table? Pull out all the things, all the parts of me right now, whether good, whether bad. Let me lay it all out on the table right now, because I can only do something with what I already know, right?
Right.
So for me, I knew I was vulnerable. And when I say vulnerable, I wrote vulnerable, but I wrote why I was vulnerable, what made me vulnerable. I'm vulnerable because I'm walking through a divorce. It does not feel good. So anybody who may speak to me right now, I can't identify that behavior, but I know they may not get a good side of me if they tap the wrong trigger of even mentioning divorce or what's happening, right?
Right.
I was peaceful eventually at a certain part when I wrote this, and I wrote why I was peaceful. Mm-hmm. I was walking through therapy. I was starting to identify certain things. So, okay, that part came in me. Gentle. I knew I was gentle. Mm-hmm. And this came after like some therapy, but writing gentle or delicate. I'm delicate because of what I'm walking through. I'm delicate because I'm in therapy.
Right.
And it's making me talk about some things that don't feel good, right? So at the same time, all those things that I was writing down was also things I noticed what I needed, right? Mm-hmm. So I needed somebody to be able to see that I was vulnerable. So be gentle with me, be delicate with me, right? A lot of times we don't identify what we're actually being. It's also what we usually need back, right?
Absolutely.
So, right. So also I wrote strong. I'm strong in this because I'm walking through it, but also me being strong, not being, I don't want to say it could be negative, but it could also be a weak, I don't want to say weakness. It could be something that wouldn't be pushing me forward. Because I'm so strong, I feel like I got to do this by myself.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So I'm strong enough to go through this. I have strength to go through this. But I'm so strong that I'm going to sit in my house. I'm going to deal with it by myself. I'm not going to speak about it.
Wow.
I may speak to you, but nobody else has to know, because everybody knows me as being the strong girl. Everybody knows that she's got it together, that, I'm going to weather through this storm, because I'm always motivating and telling everybody else, you got this, you got this. However, I go home at night and I'm like, Lord, I don't got this. Help me out.
Exactly.
Right?
So real.
Right? A lot more came with that. So those are some of the things I started doing. First, sit down with yourself and write down, what am I right now, right? After I got through those things, what do I bring to the table, right? Because there's great things about you. I know a lot of times when people ask that in relationships now.
Right.
What do you bring to the table?
Right.
Somebody asked me that. I had to think for a minute. At this point, I was like, well, what do I bring to the table? Everybody wants a seat at the table. Everybody says, pull up a chair. Everybody says, I got this ready for you at the table. But what do you bring to the table?
That's so good.
It's really a good question when you really think about it, because you have to go back into, who are you?
Yes.
Right?
Right.
But
what values do I possess? What values are within me that are going to come through me in order for me to present myself as such?
Right. People aren't even thinking about it as values.
No.
at all.
No.
Right? Because this is how we're literally going to get to the list of all the things of who you are, right?
I love it.
So,
can I go into that?
Right.
What you just said, you said people don't even come, when you ask the question, what do you bring to the table, most people are not even going to mention values.
No.
They are going to talk about, again, the roles. They're going to talk about financial state, right? You know, some characteristic things that they like doing, cooking, cleaning. You know, we'll talk as a woman kind of deal, right?
Right.
But then when you really can sit back and realize, like, the key to, like, the healthiest relationships is the characteristics of the person. It's the attributes. It's the values. The strongest part of I consider relationships to be partnerships. Mm-hmm. And in order for the partnership, just like any business, why do you think a business has a mission statement and, you know, in a vision statement, and they're laying out their values in these statements? Because they're saying, if you attach to my vision and you partner with me in my vision and my values of this business, we will be successful. So I look at the same thing in a relationship. I mean, obviously there's a lot more vulnerability, sensitivity, you know, love and stuff there kind of deal. But the foundation of the relationship should be built on two whole people that are able to identify themselves and be able to know what core values and characteristics make up them to their core. Like, their soul is presented in this way. And because I mean, literally you could be like, oh, I make 6 figures, but when I come to the table and you say, what you bring to the table, and I say reciprocity, meet me, match me.
Right.
Reciprocity. It's the way that I live in life. It's the thing that keeps me balanced in life. I can't give all day long to a taker. Right. Because then I'm depleted. My cup is empty kind of deal. Reciprocity. Right. The love that is balanced, that comes back and forth.
Right.
So, that's so good. Sorry.
No, you hit. It's exactly what I was actually about to go down my own personal list. A nurturing woman.
Yeah.
Every woman isn't nurturing.
No.
Right? So, and I just want to break this down as simple as it can get. It doesn't have to be about the 6 figures and I do this every day. No. What are the simple things, the characteristics of you? A nurturing woman, because now when I bring that to the table, matched along with your vision or your characteristics, what does that do for whoever I'm dating or whatever the case may be? As a mother, what does that do? I bring peace.
Absolutely.
How does that shift my household?
Absolutely.
How does that shift who I speak to on a daily basis?
Correct. Yeah.
Right? Those simple things like that, you know, I'm a supporter. I support everybody that's next to me, around me, and everything that they're doing, right? That now changes relationships with people.
Yeah.
You're always supporting me. You're always here. You're always... A lot of times we don't give ourselves enough credit for the things that we do.
Correct. Absolutely.
Right? So now in this list, I did have a list of all the like characteristics and things that wasn't good. You know, I could have been a procrastinator or at the time maybe pessimistic. Whatever the case, whatever that was. However, when you identify those things, now you can get to your core values of what really matters, right? Because those core values are going to help you now shift into who you are at this moment to becoming who you're supposed to be.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. They dictate the behaviors.
You took the words I literally was about to say that dictates everything else from now on.
Yep.
The behavior, the environment, everything. Right?
Everything. People that you meet, strangers that you communicate with, environments that you walk in, rooms that you step into, business deals that you would even consider or negotiate. Like, every single thing shifts.
I was going to say everything shifts.
Everything shifts.
It's a whole entire shift. And mindset, everything.
Yes.
Everything.
Everything about you changes. So I love that you brought that up. Just to put the facts out there, there are some ways that you can identify your core values. One is to review a list and examples of core values. You can also consider what people that you admire most, what they say about you.
Right.
Like, absolutely. So when they're saying, hey, you're strong, oh, y'all are two strong sisters, right? Because we're simultaneously walking out this divorce, right? But they don't know behind closed doors. It's like, I'm codependent on her, right? And she's like, well, I accept her and I'm very supportive kind of deal, but I need support back too. And it's like, but girl, I got you because, like, I'm dependent anyway. Like, so, all jokes aside, but, like, it really was, like, when you're starting to sit down and actually think about this, we encourage you to identify your core values, journal this out, write this out, type it in your phone, however you need to put this down. And y'all know I'm a big person and proponent for writing things out. Write the vision and make it plain, right? And so another thing is, too, when you're trying to identify your core values, you also have to consider your experiences. So I love the exercise that you did. Like, you took this to a whole nother level. I had a list of sheet of paper of all these values, right? And I was, like, super stressed out trying to do it. I was like, I'm just going to check off all these because I'm all of these things, right? Like, I had just walked through the phase of identity where I was starting to use affirmations to really build myself up, but it's slow me. Didn't realize you got to understand your core values. You over here affirming everything in the whole world about yourself, but who are you going to show up as, right? And so it was very difficult to kind of choose, which is my next point in identifying these core values. One of the next things is trying to categorize and group them together so that you can come up with a top list. Yeah. So top 5, top 6, top 10 list of core values, because that is key to understanding who you are about to become and who you are about to evolve, how you're about to redefine yourself.
There you go.
With these core values, because this is the start. And we told you at the beginning of the episode, this is the start. This is where the faith matches the works. And you're about to walk this out in order to come up with the manifestations and bring it into fruition, all of these things that you're about to unlock in blessings for your life. Yeah. So there is a central theme in there because it's your core. That's why it's called core values. It's coming from the soul. It's coming from the deepest parts of you and what you think help you be important and what you think are important ways to show up in life and to present yourself and to identify yourself. So core values are key. We can go on and on about this. Yeah. We're going to give you and close this episode out with a list of examples of core values. You can always reach out to us. I am at Show and Sell with Noelle on all social media platforms. Also, you can always find at Redefining You Pod on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, everywhere, right?
Everywhere. And I'm Be the CEO, and that's BEE_the CEO. And you'll find me as Brittany S. Wright on Facebook, but on one of those social media platforms, you'll definitely find us.
Right, absolutely. So, reach out to us. We're happy to email or, DM you a list, an example of core values. We want everyone to be able to identify this. Like, we really want you to figure out who you are. And make sure that you tune into next episode too. Listen to the examples before you go and tune into next episode, because this is where we're going to tell you how to implement and actually walk out these core values by setting boundaries around them, protecting them. So, but thank you for tuning in. Britt, let's go. Let's get a list of core values. Let's help the people evolve and redefine themselves.
Definitely. All right, so here's a list. And the list gets pretty lengthy. However, these are just some. So, accountability, achievement, ambition, authenticity, authority, balance, beauty, clarity, calmness, compassion, consistency, courage, creativity, dependability, discipline, empathy. That's definitely me. I just thought about that. Equity. That's a good one. Faith, family, fitness, freedom, growth, harmony, huge on harmony, right? Health, honesty, independence or independent, intelligence. Ooh, I love people who are intelligent. Kind, loyal, obedience, order, original or originality, peace, positive or positivity, professional, reliable, respect, self-control. That's a good one. Sensitive, support or supportive, timely, trustworthy, truth or truthful, wealth, and wisdom. That's just some of the list. And I like to also say, this can change, you know?
I was going to say that you took that out of my
This
mouth.
can definitely change because as I think, a lot of things that was on my list before are not there now.
Yes.
It has definitely changed. Like, you know, I realize how much harmony right now really matters more than it did then.
Oh my God, I wrote intelligent on my last one, right? Mm-hmm. But I consider myself to be wise because I think there's not a lot of talk about the difference between intelligence and wisdom. They are very different. I consider myself to be, wisdom is she and she is me. Y'all hear me say that, right? And I mean that because wisdom to me is taking intelligence and putting it in application.
Right.
It is applying that level of intelligence and being able to walk that out. And like, as you were reading this, I literally was thinking in my head, I had to put my hand up because I was like, my core values have changed.
They have changed.
They have evolved.
They have evolved. Let's say that. Not just changed, they have evolved.
Yeah, those were baseline core values. Now it's like another level it's almost the same value because some of mine hasn't really changed, you know? Like I think y'all hear me talk about reciprocity, right? And now I'm learning about equity and agape in order to apply, you know, reciprocity properly kind of deal. And so they're evolving. And I love this for us. They have definitely
evolved. When I wrote them, I was like, ooh, some of these are a little different now. Yes. And you're right, they have gone to the next level, but because we have gone to the next level.
Absolutely.
So we're just literally examples or testimonies of what happens when you walk through this process. Yeah. It's not easy. Let's go ahead and I'm going to be real. Yeah. It's not easy to walk through this. Mm-mm. It takes silence. It takes clarity. Mm-hmm. It takes sometimes it takes a lot of pruning.
Ooh.
It takes a lot of pruning, and if you don't know what pruning is, go look it up.
You got to get rid of some things, some people,
right?
Some actions, some behaviors.
Right. It takes a lot. And sometimes you find yourself sitting with just you. Friends. Maybe one or two people. But it's okay. That process is worth it.
It's so worth it.
You may feel in that moment like, what is happening to my life? Right. Life has changed so fast. It feels like everything around me has just shifted and moved, but it's for a reason because you're moving forward.
Oh, absolutely.
Obedience has a ripple effect. It has a movement.
Yes.
And so
stay obedient to the process.
To the process.
Trust the process. Literally go through the process. Identify your core values. Create a top 10. Create a top 5. Yeah. Create a top 3 if all you got is 3. And I remember I wrote optimistic as one of mine too. Mm-hmm. Like I was very positive and optimistic. And now I will replace that with freedom. Mm-hmm. I unlock and I inspire people to search and seek after freedom.
Yeah.
And to go free, because freedom to me is bigger than optimism. Because what it is, it's the truest form of joy. It provides the purest peace that you can operate in. And so, this is good. Trust the process, y'all. I'm going through this now. Apparently, right. This is another level of this.
Right. Like, we're literally having a moment right now of trust the process. But even for us to take that wisdom right now of trust the process of what's after this. What's next? Because we didn't see ourselves here a year ago.
Oh, God, no. God,
all we could use were these words. That's right. Like, we couldn't use agape love at the time.
Oh, God, no.
Right? And we could barely get reciprocity.
That's right. Oh, my God. We had to learn how to say the word from a song. Shout out to the song.
Yeah.
X Factor. So, we had to learn how to say the word, right? And, absolutely. So, if we couldn't even speak these things, there was no way for us to affirm and manifest these things. And we definitely weren't attracting these things.
Absolutely
not. We weren't acting as these things.
No.
So the behaviors didn't line up. The people that were surrounding us were not these things as well. They didn't match our core values, which is another purpose and reasoning to identify your core values, because they are really truly what can help you show up in healthy relationships. And that's so funny you say that, because 2 years ago, we couldn't even get this together to even be able to talk any of this out or anything. And now we sit here and we beautifully are sitting in a space where we are both extremely joyful. We are free beyond any type of realm, right? And we are in very healthy relationships. We are experiencing agape love with our soulmates.
Right.
And it's like, trust the process. That's all I have. It's literally
the process.
Be obedient to the steps and the instructions. And if it is coming from Redefining You, then hey, listen to this, follow these episodes. Consider the titles of the episodes, because we're telling you how this was downloaded to us to be able to send this back out to transform other people, because transformation journey is worth it all.
It's worth it. It's worth it.
Deeper than the self-worth that you are going to discover about yourself. It's bigger than that self-worth. It is worth it all. We have two beautiful little girls that are thriving in school. They're doing the best that they've ever done. They're active. They're growing and being cultivated into little women. And it's gorgeous to see. And like, life is literally like, it's going.
It's going. And it's well. It's definitely different than before. And it's because we took the time to actually walk this out. Once again, it doesn't feel good when you're in it. However, I always say it's greener on the other side when you do choose you.
It is. It definitely is. It definitely is. Choose you first every single time.
Choose you.
And the grass will remain greener. Yeah. Because you choose you, and you water your own grass first.
Right.
Because if you're not doing that, how can you show up great for everybody else and all these other facets and ventures and people that are a part of your life? Like, man, that's so good.
I give you two analogies. So if you haven't listened to the first episode, which you should have by now, right? But I always give my tea analogy of filling up your cup with all the great things first, because then once that overflows, then everybody else gets blessed from that. Right. But not only that, when you're on an airplane, right? And God forbid this ever happens, but what do they tell you when they give you directions for people who actually pay attention to the directions?
Shout out to my mom. She was going to save us. Nobody was listening.
Mom always listens to the directions. Well, her time flying.
It was like, so what did they say? Oh, I got it for me. Well, I mean, so all us gonna die. Like, you don't even care to share.
She didn't care. But they always tell you to put your oxygen mask on first, and then help somebody else next to you. Right? Yeah. You've got to take care of you first. You've got to save you first. You cannot go down, or you can't think that you're going to move forward by saving everybody else around you. Yeah. Because when it's all said and done, they got what they need from you, and they can go about their business. Yeah.
Or just operating in these destructive behaviors. Right. Like myself, I had no self-control at all. Nothing. And it was hard to understand because I was still disciplined. I was still showing up to work. I was still working out. I was still eating properly. But the level of self-control was not really there. It didn't exist. I wasn't controlling my emotions. I was having emotional outbursts and everything. And so it's so key to sit with yourself and really be able to come to terms with who you are. Who you are and who you show up to be. Yeah. And it's so beautiful, y'all. I'm like so like in awe. I can't even get my words together to express like, and then when you attract that healthy whole human being and y'all can have conversation to be able to say like, these are my triggers. This is something I'm healed from. This is what I'm currently being, focus my discipline on. This is something that a behavior I'm trying to transform or evolve and make better in my own life. This is the type of conversations, as opposed to what do you bring to the table? Right. Or the conversation of, I don't know, it's just like toxic conversations that people have in relationship and trying to form relationships. But it's like, when you show up as a whole individual and you're healthy and you have your identity in check and you feel fulfillment through these core values that you've been protecting and that you now know you've imparted in your soul, deep within your soul, and you operate in this space now, and you're in harmony with them. You're in alignment to where it's like you're harmonizing identity and core values at all time. Boundaries, identity, core values.
Yep.
Worth, identity, core values, right? When you are able to do that, can you just imagine the level of attraction, the law of attraction that kicks in, then the type of people that you begin to attract towards you? Mm-hmm. Everything changes. Your environment changes. Your conversation changes. Like, the way you dress.
Everything changes. You now start to become her. You now start to become him. And I always say, who do I need to become to get to where I'm going? Those core values help me to start becoming her. And so now as I'm moving in life, like you said, the communication between people change.
Yeah.
I don't even talk to the same people anymore. I sat down and told you the other day, I was like, I don't have no toxic people in my life. I don't even have toxic conversations at all. One, I can't even take them because I'm totally evolved.
Right.
However, but at the same time, when you sit down and you actually really reflect, we're actually having a reflecting moment right now. That's why. But when you sit down and you reflect, you're like, my life does not look like anything it used to. Mm-mm. The people, conversations, who I'm attracting.
Yeah.
Women and men.
Yeah.
Right?
Businesses have evolved.
Everything changes.
We redefined ourselves.
Literally redefined. Yeah.
And we took that hard step, that core values, the identity and the core values.
Yeah. That was the hardest part.
It was literally the hardest part. We're not even going to sit here and fake the funk with you and make it seem like, oh, you could just take this list that we just read off of and pick 6 out of here. No, this takes some real work. This takes some soul searching to figure out, and some reliving some experiences and listening to what other people have said about you and called you. And yeah, it takes some real soul deep work. Mm-hmm. Digging out, like it's like digging a well.
It is.
To hoping to strike water at the bottom of it.
It is.
But yeah, my well is full with living water at this point.
Absolutely.
It's an overflow. So do the work, man. Do the work. We gave the list.
Yeah. That's a good reflection. We were reflecting just now.
Yeah.
That's good though. That's really good. And like we said, this changes constantly. Like as you evolve, your list evolves, and not that some of those previous core values don't stay the same, but a lot of them evolve.
Yeah, they elevate.
And they go to the next level. Mm-hmm. So
identify just the core ones, where you are right now.
Right now.
Like literally, like Brittany said, hers, it was vulnerable at one point, right? Like if that is your right now, that's all you need to do is put right now, because right now is just helping you fuel the passion to start the journey. It's giving you something behind you to start moving forward.
Yeah.
And it's just whatever it is right now for you. And some of them, eventually you'll get to the point, because I do remember later in my journey where I had to go back and I actually identified the areas of opportunities, the core values that I wasn't great at. And self-control, patience, and grace. And it came quick because I was like, "Ooh, okay, I'm all of these and very good at these, but I lack self-control. I lack patience. I lack grace." And it ain't even, let me explain this too. These are my core values. These aren't even the things that I issue to other people.
Right.
These are what I think about me. These are how I treat me. These are how I love on me. These are how I see my worth within me. I felt like I lacked self-control. I didn't give myself patience. I wasn't patient with me. I think that I should just, I identify these core values. I am healed, right? No, I got to be patient, because when you say it best, you don't know that you've healed from something until you've been tested by it, right? And so that's where that patience comes in, because you got to pass the test. You got to be present enough to identify and see the test and be able to say, okay, how do I overcome this test based on this is the space I operate out of now. I am spiritual. I am a person of reciprocity. I am powerful, right? And be able to take those into that test and say, okay, this is how I show up to this trial. This is how I show up to this conflict that's presented in front of me, right? And yeah, so I just had to like really sit and realize, okay, these are some areas of opportunities that I can add. So my list of 6 grew to a list of 10 because I needed to really focus in and I needed to develop it in other areas as well in order for me to then, it took me from healed to wholeness.
Right.
Is what it did.
That's exactly what it is. From healed to
It
wholeness.
took me from healed to
I was
wholeness.
just about to say, those are just as important. Because how can you say, tell somebody to give you patience. Be patient with me. Be patient with me as I go through this. If you don't get patient.
That part.
But you have to recognize those. And it comes. It's time.
Oh, yeah.
It's time. Be patient enough. Be graceful enough with yourself first.
Yes.
To walk through this. It's going to be some ups and downs and some shaking and grooving and moving and breaking and all these things.
Yeah.
However, it comes together beautifully in the end.
It does. Every time.
Every time.
Every time. So we hope it gave you a little bit of insight into the importance of your identity, who you are, your worth. You are more than enough.
Yes.
That's coming next. You are more than enough. And helping you to be able to sit down and do the work to identify in your core values and list them out so that you can embrace them, so that you can start working towards becoming them.
Yeah.
So thank you for tuning into episode 5. Episode 6 is coming, where we teach you how to become those core values and implement them in the real world. So make sure that you check us out. Stay tuned. Let it, just let it flow. If you're on any of the streaming devices, we are on all of them with Redefining You, and also on YouTube. So please share any episode. If it's one word that resonated with you, share this to someone else. You never know who was like me, who looked the part but was falling apart.
Right. Absolutely.
So share, please share Redefining You podcast. We definitely appreciate all of your support and all of you who listen and give awesome feedback. We are on this journey with you. As you can tell, we are sitting in this moment of self-reflection going, ooh, the core values have evolved.
Right.
So thank you all, and we will catch y'all in episode 6.